It was a quiet afternoon inside the Moretti villa, true quiet, the kind of silence that holds its breath, waiting for something to break. The sun poured through the tall glass windows, flooding the marble floors with golden light. Dust particles floated lazily in the air, but not a single servant dared to speak. Every step, every breath was measured. Because when you served Don Luca Moretti, silence wasn't just respect, it was survival. In the center of that grand dining hall sat Luca himself, the most feared mafia boss in Florence, a man whose word could end lives. And yet, in that moment, he was just quietly reading the morning paper, his gold watch glinting beneath the daylight. He looked calm, but everyone knew that calm was the mask before the storm. Around him, his staff moved carefully. Among them was a new face, Clara, a soft-spoken maid with downcast eyes, delicate hands, and a quietness that felt different. No one knew much about her, only that she'd arrived a few weeks ago, recommended by the housekeeper. She never smiled, never spoke unless spoken to, and always wore long sleeves, even under the summer sun. Then it happened. The tray slipped. In a split second, crash. The sound of shattering porcelain echoed through the hall like gunfire. The servants froze. A single teacup rolled across the marble floor, spinning until it stopped near Luca's polished shoes. Clara stood there, pale as a ghost, her trembling hands hovering mid-air. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The silence that followed was suffocating. Luca slowly folded his newspaper, his expression unreadable. The servants exchanged terrified glances. Everyone knew, when something broke in Don Luca's house, people didn't just lose their jobs. Sometimes they disappeared. But this time something was different. Luca rose from his chair, not fast, not slow, just controlled. Each step toward her echoed through the marble hall. Clara's breathing quickened. She dropped to her knees, gathering the shards with shaking fingers. Clara whispering, "I am sorry, sir. I'll clean it right away, please, please don't." Her voice cracked. She flinched as he came closer, her hands trembling so violently that a sharp piece of porcelain sliced her skin. A thin line of blood appeared across her palm. Luca stopped. His cold eyes, the same eyes that terrified rivals and assassins alike, softened. For a long, heavy second, he just watched her. Then his voice, low, firm, but not cruel, broke the silence. "Luca, stand up." She froze, unsure if it was an order or a threat. "Luca," I said, standard. Her knees wobbled as she rose to her feet. She kept her head down, afraid to look at him. That's when he noticed. The sleeve of her uniform had slipped, revealing faint, yellowed bruises on her arm. He frowned. They weren't fresh, but they were deep, and the way she immediately tugged her sleeve down, quick, defensive, told him everything. Luca had seen enough pain in his lifetime to know the look of someone who'd been hurt. Not just beaten, broken. He took a step closer, his voice lower now, more human. "Luca, who hurt you?" Clara's eyes darted up for the first time, wide, frightened, shimmering with unshed tears. "Clara, no one, sir. I just fell. Please, it was nothing." "Luca, don't lie to me." His tone wasn't angry, but it cut through the air like a knife. She looked down again, clutching her bleeding hand against her chest. "Clara, it was nothing, please. I'm sorry." The other servants had stopped breathing. The air itself felt heavy. Luca exhaled slowly. Then, without warning, he turned to the head butler. "Luca, everyone out." The room emptied in seconds. The soft click of the door closing echoed like a heartbeat. Now it was just the two of them, the mafia boss and the trembling maid. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, painting her figure in gold. She looked small, fragile, like she didn't belong in a world as cruel as his. He approached, stopping just an arm's length away. When he spoke, his voice had changed completely, calm, curious, almost kind. "Luca, look at me." She hesitated, then slowly lifted her gaze. For the first time, Luca saw her face clearly. Tears hung at the corners of her eyes, her lips trembling, her breathing shallow. Something inside him stirred, something he thought had died years ago. Luca quietly. Who hurt you, Clara? She blinked rapidly, fighting tears, shaking her head. Clara. It's nothing, sir. Just, just accidents. I'm clumsy. Luca. Clumsy doesn't leave marks like that. His voice was barely a whisper now. The silence stretched, a fragile moment hanging between truth and fear. And then, for the first time since she'd entered this house, Clara spoke more than a few words. Her voice broke as she said, "Please, don't ask me. I just want to work. I promise I won't cause trouble." Lucas studied her for a long moment. He could sense the terror behind her words, not of him, but of something else. Something worse. He wanted to press further, to demand answers. But before he could speak again, Luca's jaw tightened. He turned, snatching the phone from the table. Luca into phone. What is it? A deep voice on the other end. His right-hand man, Enzo, spoke quickly, urgent. Enzo. Boss, we've got trouble. Someone broke the truce. They hit one of our trucks outside the city. Luca's face hardened instantly. The softness vanished, replaced by the cold, controlled fury that made him feared by all. Luca, handle it. I'm on my way. He hung up, his expression unreadable again. Then he turned back to Clara. Her hands were still bleeding, her shoulders still trembling. He wanted to ask again, who hurt you? But the moment was gone. Judy called. Luca firmly. Clean that cut. Use the first aid kit in the kitchen. And don't pick up broken things again. You'll hurt yourself worse next time. She nodded quickly, whispering a soft, "Yes, sir." He gave her one last look, a strange mixture of confusion and concern, before walking toward the door. His footsteps echoed down the hall, fading into silence. As the door closed behind him, Clara let out a shaky breath she'd been holding all along. Her knees nearly gave out, and she leaned against the counter, clutching her injured hand. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks, not because of the cut, but because of the question she couldn't answer. Who hurt you? If she told him the truth, he'd be in danger too. She cleaned the blood from her hand and gathered the last of the shattered porcelain. Outside the villa windows, sunlight bathed the gardens in warmth. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. But then she froze. Through the glass, far beyond the gates, parked on the quiet dirt road, a black car. Windows tinted, engine off. But she could feel someone watching her. Her lips parted, her breath caught. A drop of sweat rolled down her temple. Clara whispering, "No, it can't be." The sunlight glared off the car's mirror, and for a split second, she saw a face reflected inside. A man's face, cold, smiling. Her heartbeat thundered in her chest. She took a step back from the window, her eyes wide with horror. He had found her. The sound of footsteps approached from behind, Luca, returning to grab his jacket. She spun around too quickly, nearly knocking over another vase. He caught her arm to steady her, and that's when he saw her expression. Terror. Pure, unmistakable terror. Luca. What is it? Her lips trembled. She couldn't speak, couldn't even point. He turned his head slightly, following her gaze toward the window. But by the time he looked, the black car was gone. He frowned, suspicious, his voice slow. Luca. Clara, what did you see? She shook her head rapidly. Clara. Nothing, sir. It was just my imagination. Her voice was barely a whisper, but her eyes betrayed her, wide, glassy, afraid. Luca didn't believe her. Not for a second. He studied her face in silence. Then finally said, Luca quietly, "If someone's threatening you, you tell me. Do you understand?" She nodded, though she didn't mean it. He grabbed his coat and walked away, but even as his footsteps disappeared down the hall, she stood frozen in place. Her eyes drifted back to the gate. The road was empty now, but the fear in her heart told her the truth. That car wasn't a dream. It was a warning. And while the world outside burned with daylight, inside the grand villa, a secret was beginning to stir. A past she couldn't escape. A question she couldn't answer. And a man, cold, ruthless, untouchable, who was about to discover that even devils can feel. The morning after the shattered porcelain, the villa had gone back to its quiet rhythm. But for Don Luca Moretti, silence no longer brought peace. He sat in his office, sunlight cutting through half-closed blinds, dust glinting in the air like faint ghosts of memory. His hands were steady, but his mind wasn't. He couldn't stop thinking about her. The way she flinched, the bruises she hid, the fear in her eyes when he asked that question. Who hurt you? Those words echoed in his head like a riddle he couldn't solve. He'd seen pain before, in enemies, in victims, even in himself, but the kind of pain Clara carried. It was silent, suffocating, invisible. He had learned to read fear. But hers wasn't fear of him. It was fear of someone else. Downstairs, Clara moved through the halls like a shadow. Her sleeves buttoned to the wrists, her hair tied neatly back, her every step careful. The other servants whispered about her. Too quiet, they said. Too secretive. But they didn't understand. Every whisper, every sudden sound made her flinch. She didn't fear their words. She feared being seen. As she wiped the sunlight from the dining table, she caught a faint reflection in the window. The same road, the same gates. Empty now. But the memory of that black car still burned behind her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly as she polished the silver. She tried to steady herself. He's gone, she whispered. He won't find me here. But deep inside, she didn't believe it. For the first time in years, Luca noticed something unusual. He was distracted. His men spoke about business, territory, money, but none of it mattered. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Clara's bruised arm. He tried to shake it off. She's just a maid, he told himself. Not my problem. But his heart, the one he thought had turned to stone long ago, refused to listen. So that afternoon, he decided to test something. Clara was washing glasses, her hands red from the soap. When a sudden voice behind her spoke, she almost dropped one. Luca calmed deep. You're shaking again. She turned, startled, wiping her hands on her apron. Clara. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't hear you come in. Luca. You didn't. I was quiet on purpose. She blinked, unsure what to say. Luca. Tell me something, Clara. Why do you look like someone's always standing behind you? Her mouth opened, then closed. He was too close to the truth. Clara softly. I don't sleep well sometimes. That's all. Luca's eyes narrowed. He studied her face, the subtle bruise fading near her jawline, the fear behind her practiced calm. He reached for a glass from the counter and held it up to the light. Luca, you know, I've dealt with a lot of liars in my life. They lie to survive, to hide their guilt. But you, he set the glass down gently. Luca, you lie to protect someone else, don't you? Her eyes filled with sudden tears. She looked away, whispering, Clara, please, sir, don't ask me questions like that. For a moment, he almost pressed her, but something in her trembling voice stopped him. He took a slow breath, turned, and said quietly, Luca, fine, keep your secrets for now. Then, softer, so low she almost didn't hear it, Luca, but if anyone hurts you again, I'll find out, whether you tell me or not. And with that, he left the kitchen, Clara whispering, why would he care? He's a killer, a mafia boss. He shouldn't care. But his words lingered in her mind like warmth after winter. For the first time in months, she didn't feel invisible. Days passed, but the tension in the house thickened. Luca's men noticed his mood, the quiet stares, the distraction, the way he lingered near the servants' quarters whenever Clara worked nearby. Rumors started, and rumors, in the world of the mafia, were dangerous. A group of guards argued over a delivery gone wrong. One of them, a young, impatient man named Rocco, slammed a crate too hard. The loud noise made Clara flinch and drop the glass she was carrying. It shattered at her feet. Before she could even apologize, Rocco barked, Rocco, watch what you're doing, woman. You want me to lose my hearing too? Clara froze, terrified. She raised her hands instinctively, as if to protect herself. The sudden movement caught everyone off guard. She wasn't bracing for anger. She was bracing for a blow. The entire courtyard went silent. Luca, who had just stepped out onto the balcony above, saw the whole thing. Something dark flickered in his eyes. He came down the stairs, each step deliberate, heavy. The men stiffened as he approached. Luca, what's going on here? Rocco swallowed hard. Rocco. Boss, she just. Luca interrupting. I asked what you did. Rocco. Nothing, boss. I swear. Luca's voice dropped to a cold whisper. Luca. Then why is she shaking like a cornered animal? Rocco stammered, but Luca's glare silenced him. He turned to Clara, his tone softening. Luca, did he touch you? Clara shaking her head. No, sir. He didn't. Please, it's not his fault. It was my mistake. Her voice was pleading, not for herself, but for the guard. Luca studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Luca to Rocco. Next time you raise your voice like that in my house, you won't need to speak again. The courtyard went dead quiet. Then he turned and walked away. Later that night, Clara found something unexpected on the kitchen counter, a small folded note. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, written in clean, firm handwriting, were just 5 words. You're safe here. Trust me. She stood there, staring at the words, her throat tight with emotion. No one had ever said she was safe before. No one. But as her eyes lifted to the window, that fragile piece shattered again. A faint light glinted outside, headlights. A car, parked on the same empty road beyond the villa gates. Her blood ran cold. She stepped closer to the window, heart pounding. She couldn't see the driver's face, but the shape of the vehicle was burned into her memory. Sleek, black, tinted windows. The same car. Her breathing quickened. The air felt heavier. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest. Clara whispering, No, it's him. It's really him. For a second, she thought of running to Luca, but fear stopped her. If he knew the truth, if he knew who she was running from, it would destroy everything. She backed away slowly, retreating into the shadows of the kitchen, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Upstairs, Luca was on the balcony again, his phone in hand, giving quiet orders to his men. But something, some instinct, made him look down toward the garden. He saw her through the window, pale, frozen, watching something outside. Her fear wasn't normal. It wasn't the fear of a servant afraid to displease her master. It was deeper, older, personal. Luca's gaze hardened. He turned to Enzo, his right-hand man, and said, Luca, double the guards on the east gate. No one comes near the property. No one. Enzo, you expecting trouble, boss? Luca's eyes didn't leave the dark road beyond the trees. Luca, not yet. But someone is. The night stretched long and restless. Clara sat on her bed, clutching the small note in her hand, tears glistening under the dim lamp. The shadows outside her window seemed alive, moving, whispering, waiting. She whispered to herself, Clara, why won't he leave me alone? Why can't I just disappear? Her voice broke. For a moment, she let herself cry, silent, hopeless tears. But just as her sobs quieted, there was a sound. Sound. Faint tap at the window. Her eyes snapped open. The lamp flickered. She turned her head, slow, terrified, and saw it. A folded piece of paper pressed against the glass from the outside. Her breath caught in her throat. Hands trembling, she moved closer, the air around her cold as stone. She opened the window just enough to grab the paper and unfold it. Inside, written in rough, slanted handwriting, were 3 words that made her blood run cold. I found you. The paper fell from her hands. Her knees buckled. And in that moment, she realized, no matter how far she'd run, the past had caught up to her. From the shadows beyond the trees, headlights flared briefly, then vanished into the dark. And somewhere in the villa above her, Don Luca Moretti, the man feared by all, was about to learn that the girl he swore to protect was already being hunted. Dawn rose over the Moretti villa like a whisper, soft light spilling across the hills, golden and calm. But inside those marble walls, peace had already been shattered. Because the night before someone had left a message for Clara. 3 words that turned her blood to ice. I found you. She hadn't slept. The note still lay on her bedside table, wrinkled and damp from her trembling hands. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind against the window made her flinch. By the time sunlight touched her curtains, her eyes were red and swollen. She moved through the kitchen that morning like a ghost, silent and pale. But she didn't know. Someone had been watching her. Don Luca Moretti noticed everything. He'd seen the way her smile had disappeared overnight, the way her eyes darted toward the window as if expecting a shadow to appear. And he knew something had happened. Luca stood at his desk, tying his cufflinks, when Enzo stepped in. Enzo. Boss, you asked for updates? Nothing unusual on the east gate. There were tire marks on the dirt road outside. Fresh ones. Luca's hands paused mid-motion. Luca, how fresh? Enzo. Few hours at most. Could be nothing, but the girl's been nervous lately. Luca looked toward the window, the garden below, the path leading to the servants' quarters. His jaw tightened. Luca, get the car ready. And tell my men, no one comes near that road again without my permission. Enzo. You think someone's after her? Luca quietly. I don't think. I know. Downstairs, Clara tried to keep her mind busy. She scrubbed the floors, washed dishes, arranged flowers. But her thoughts wouldn't stop spinning. The face behind that car, that cold smile, haunted her every second. The man she'd escaped. Marco D'Angelo, her former employer. A man who owned more than money and power. He owned fear. And she knew if he'd found her again, it meant one thing. He wasn't finished with her yet. She was arranging a vase when the kitchen door swung open. Luca firm, calm. Clara, come with me. She froze, startled. Her hands hesitated mid-motion. Clara. Sir, did I do something wrong? Luca. No. But you're going to tell me what's going on. Now. Her throat tightened. For a moment, she considered lying again, pretending everything was fine. But his eyes, cold, commanding, left no room for escape. She followed him into his office. The door shut behind her with a heavy click. The air in that room was thick, heavy with the smell of cologne and cigar smoke. He gestured toward the chair across from him. Luca, sit. She did. Her hands gripped the edge of the seat. He leaned forward, elbows on his desk. Luca, I know someone's been near this property. I know you're scared. And I know you're lying to me. Her eyes widened, tears glistening before she could stop them. Clara whispering, please don't send me away. Luca frowned. Luca, send you away? Who said anything about that? She hesitated. Then, voice trembling, she finally said it. Clara, because if you know who I am you won't want me here. The words came tumbling out, like a dam finally breaking. She told him everything. How she'd once worked for Marco D'Angelo, one of the most dangerous men in southern Italy. How Marco had taken an interest in her, unwanted, obsessive, cruel. How she refused him, and how he punished her for it. Her voice cracked as she described the nights he locked her in a cellar for disobedience. The bruises, the fear, the escape. Clara crying. I thought I was free. I thought he'd never find me again, but he did. He's here. I know it. For a long, heavy silence, Lucas said nothing. His jaw clenched. His hands curled into fists on the desk. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and cold, like steel. Luca. Marco D'Angelo. That bastard's still breathing? Clara's eyes filled with tears. Clara. You know him? Luca grimly. We've crossed paths. He used to be in a lie. Until he betrayed me. He stood, pacing the room, his shadow tall against the golden light. Luca, you're telling me that snake hurt you? She nodded, silent sobs shaking her shoulders. Luca quietly dark. Then he's already dead. He just doesn't know it yet. For the first time, Clara looked up, truly looked at him. And in his eyes, she didn't see the cold, untouchable mafia boss everyone feared. She saw something she hadn't seen in years, anger born of care, but also something more dangerous, resolve. Clara pleading, "Please, don't go after him. He'll kill you too." Luca turned, his gaze sharp, but his voice low. "Luca, I faced worse men than him, but I won't let anyone touch what's under my roof. Clara, I'm not worth this." He stepped closer. The sunlight fell across his face, highlighting a small scar near his temple. "Luca, you think I care about worth? You think I protect people because they're useful?" He paused, eyes narrowing slightly. "Luca softer. No one deserves what he did to you. Not even in my world." Clara's lips trembled. For a fleeting second, she saw kindness, something she hadn't believed existed in men like him. Suddenly, the rumble of an engine echoed outside the villa. Luca's instincts kicked in instantly. He crossed to the window, peering through the blinds. A black sedan was parked just beyond the gate, same model, same tinted windows. Luca under his breath. "So it's true." He turned to Clara. "Luca, get to the servants' quarters and stay there. Don't open the door for anyone." Clara panicking. "No, he'll hurt you, sir." Luca firm. "Go." His voice left no room for argument. She ran out of the office, her heart pounding. Outside, Luca walked through the front doors, unarmed but unafraid. His men followed silently, surrounding the property. The black car didn't move. Luca stopped a few feet from the gate, sunlight glaring off the metal. Luca shouting, "You've got a lot of nerve showing your face near my home." No answer. Then, the car door opened. A tall man stepped out, sharp suit, slick hair, a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Marco D'Angelo. "Marco, relax, Luca. I came in peace." "Luca, you don't know the meaning of the word." Marco smirking. "You've got something that belongs to me." Luca's jaw tightened. "Luca, she doesn't belong to anyone." Marco chuckled, tapping a ringed finger on the gate. "Marco, a maid, Luca? That's unlike you. But I'll make this simple, hand her over, and I'll forget this ever happened." Luca's expression didn't change, but his eyes burned. Luca coldly, "You touch her again, and I'll bury you next to your father." Marco's smile faded. For a moment, the air crackled with unspoken war. Then Marco leaned in slightly, voice dripping with venom. "Marco, you're making a mistake, old friend. You can't protect everyone, especially not someone like her." He turned, stepped back into the car, and the engine roared to life. But before the car pulled away, Marco rolled down his window. "Marco, you always thought you had a heart, Luca. Let's see how long it lasts when she gets you killed." And with that, the car disappeared down the road. Luca stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty road, the echo of that threat ringing in his mind. He wasn't afraid of Marco, not of death, but he was afraid of something new. Something he hadn't felt in years. He cared. Clara sat by the kitchen window, still trembling. When Luca walked in, she stood instantly, her voice breaking. "Clara, was it him?" He nodded slowly. "Clara, then I should leave." "Luca, you're not going anywhere." "Clara, you don't understand. He won't stop until." Luca interrupting. "Then he'll have to go through me." She looked at him, tears filling her eyes. "Clara, why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Luca quietly. "Maybe I don't need to. Maybe I just know what it's like to be haunted by the past." He turned away, his voice lower now. "Luca, you stay here, Clara. From now on you're under my protection." Her lips parted to speak, but she couldn't find words. And as he walked out of the room, sunlight glinting off his silver watch, she finally realized. This man, feared by the world, might be the only one willing to save her. But neither of them knew that Marco's car hadn't left for good. It had parked on the hill overlooking the villa. And from inside, through a pair of binoculars, Marco's voice echoed coldly. "Marco, let him play hero for now. When I take her back, he'll beg me to end it." Music swells, heartbeat like drums. The past had followed her home, and now it was ready to strike again. Night fell over the Maretti estate like a warning. Thunder rumbled in the distance, rolling across the hills like growls from an unseen beast. Inside, the lights glowed warm, but peace was an illusion, because Don Luca Moretti had just declared war. And somewhere in the shadows, Marco D'Angelo was already making his next move. Luca sat behind his desk, his eyes dark, his mind racing. The storm outside mirrored the one inside him. He had spent a lifetime keeping emotions buried, guilt, anger, grief, locked behind walls built from power and fear. But this girl, Clara, had changed that. And now, because of her, an old enemy had returned. Enzo entered quietly, placing a file on the desk. Enzo, we've got eyes on D'Angelo's men. They're moving around the old port. Could be setting up for something. Luca leaned back, exhaling slowly. Luca, the port, that's his place of business. Smuggling, weapons, bribes. He's rebuilding his network. Enzo, what do you want us to do? For a moment, Luca said nothing. Then his eyes hardened. Luca, I want to send him a message. One he'll never forget. But before the order could be given, the phone rang. Not Luca's personal line, the private one. He hesitated. Only a few people knew that number. He answered, his tone sharp. Luca, who is this? A familiar voice crackled through the static. Cold. Mocking. Marco D'Angelo. Old friend. How long has it been since we've had a real conversation? Luca's grip on the receiver tightened. Luca, you made your point this morning. Don't test my patience. Marco chuckling. Always the temper. But I'm calling because I want to make peace. Luca's eyes narrowed. Luca, you don't make peace, Marco. You make corpses. Marco, you misunderstand. I'm offering a deal, something I think you'll want to hear. For a few seconds, Luca said nothing. He could hear the faint hum of the city on the other end of the line. And something else. Laughter. Glasses clinking. Marco was somewhere comfortable. Smug. Luca. Talk. Marco. You're harboring someone who belongs to me. A thief. A liar. The girl. Luca. She's not yours. Marco. She was. She knows things, Luca. Things that could destroy me. And you. Luca's silence was sharp, dangerous. Marco. So here's my offer. You bring her to me, and I'll forget the past. No blood. No war. You get to keep your little empire intact. Luca low deadly. You think I'd sell a woman's life to save my business? Marco. I think you'd do whatever it takes to keep your power. A pause. The air thickened. Marco smirking. Or has the great Luca Moretti gone soft for a maid? Luca slammed the phone down, his jaw clenched tight enough to hurt. Enzo hesitant. Boss? Luca. He wants a trade, but I'll give him something else instead, a warning. While Luca planned his next move, Clara sat alone in her small room at the far end of the villa. The sound of rain against the windows lulled the world into stillness. But inside her heart, there was only panic. She had heard pieces of the conversation. She knew Marco wanted her back, and that Luca was standing between them. Her mind flashed back to the days she'd spent under Marco's roof, the threats, the bruises, the endless fear. The thought of Luca facing that same man because of her made her sick with guilt. She pressed her hands to her face, whispering, Clara, why won't he just let me go? She wanted to believe she was safe here, but deep down, she knew safety and peace didn't exist in this world. A knock came at her door. She froze. Luca softly. Clara, it's me. She opened the door slowly, eyes red from tears. Clara, you shouldn't be here. Luca, and you shouldn't be afraid in my house. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. For a moment, neither spoke. The range rhythm filled the silence between them. Luca, he called me tonight. Offered a deal. Her breath caught. Clara, what kind of deal? Luca, he wants you. In exchange, he leaves me and my business alone. Her voice trembled. Clara, and what did you say? He met her eyes. The answer was clear before he spoke it. Luca. I said no. For a long moment, she just stared at him, tears welling. disbelief and gratitude mixing in her eyes. Clara, he'll kill you for this. Luca, then he'll have to try. Clara whispering, why are you doing this for me? Luca hesitated. There were 1,000 answers, guilt, pride, honor, but none of them felt true. The truth was simpler and more dangerous. Luca quietly, because I see too much of myself in you. Her eyes widened. Clara, you? He nodded slowly. Luca, once I loved someone too. She got caught in my world. My enemies found her first. I swore I'd never care again, never protect anyone again. But when I saw what he did to you, his voice faltered, just for a moment. Luca, I couldn't turn away. The thunder outside cracked like gunfire. Both flinched slightly. Clara softly, you still have a heart, Luca. He smirked faintly, but there was sadness behind it. Luca, that's the problem, isn't it? Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Fast. Urgent. Luca turned instantly, his hand going to the gun on his belt. Enzo off screen. Boss, you need to see this. He rushed to the main hall, Clara close behind. Enzo handed him a small envelope, soaked from the rain, sealed with red wax. Luca broke it open. Inside was a single playing card, the ace of spades, and written across it, in red ink, last chance, midnight. The docks, come alone, the devil's bargain. Marco had set the terms, and the trap. Luca looked at the card, then at the clock on the wall. 11:04 p.m. He didn't hesitate. Luca, get the car. Clara. No, you can't go. It's a setup. Luca. It always is. She grabbed his arm, desperation breaking through her fear. Clara, please if you die because of me. He turned, his voice firm but soft. Luca, I won't die. Not tonight. Not while you're still afraid. Her lip trembled, but she said nothing. He handed her a small key. Luca, lock yourself in this room until I come back. If I don't. Clara cutting him off, voice shaking. Don't say that. Luca, if I don't, Enzo will take you somewhere safe. The docks stretched wide and empty under the stormy sky. Rusty cranes loomed over the water, and waves slammed against the wood like a heartbeat of war. Luca stepped out of his car, trench coat billowing in the wind. The rain soaked his hair, his shoulders, but his eyes stayed fixed on the warehouse ahead. Inside, faint light flickered, and a familiar voice called out, mocking, echoing through the steel. Marco. Right on time, Luca. I knew you'd come alone. Luca, I came to end this. Marco stepped into view, flanked by 2 guards. A cigar burned between his fingers. His smile was venomous. Marco, you should have taken my offer. You could have saved yourself. Luca, you want her? You'll have to walk over my body. Marco, that can be arranged. The sound of guns cocking echoed through the air. Then, the lights cut out. Darkness swallowed the room. A second later, the first gunshot exploded. Sparks flew. Men shouted. Luca dove behind a crate, firing back, each shot echoing through the chaos. Rain poured through holes in the roof, turning the concrete slick with water and blood. When the smoke began to clear, only 2 men stood, Luca and Marco. Both breathing hard. Both wounded. Both unwilling to back down. Marco spitting blood, laughing. You always were a fool for emotion. Luca coldly. And you always were a coward. They lunged at each other, crashing into the crates. The fight was brutal. Fists, glass, metal. The storm outside roared louder, as if the heavens themselves were watching. Finally, Luca pinned Marco against a pillar, his gun pressed under his jaw. Luca growling. You hurt her. You hunted her. Why? Marco smirked through the blood on his lips. Marco, because she's not what you think she is. Luca froze. Marco whispering, she stole something from me, Luca. Something you'll wish she never brought into your home. Luca's eyes darkened. Luca, what did she steal? Marco laughed, a broken, eerie sound. Marco, ask her yourself. And before Luca could react, Marco slammed his head forward, breaking free. Another gunshot. The screen cuts to black. A single body hit the ground, but whose no one could tell. The rain kept falling, and far away, in her locked room, Clara jolted awake, tears in her eyes, heart pounding, as the echo of that shot reached her through the storm. She didn't know it yet, but the secret Marco spoke of would change everything. Forever. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind was worse than any thunder. The docks were still, slick with rain and blood, and under the pale gray light of dawn, two men lay broken on the concrete, one barely breathing, the other not at all. Don Luca Moretti had survived, but the price of survival was higher than he ever expected. Luca pushed himself up slowly, his body trembling, his shirt soaked in crimson. He winced. A bullet had grazed his side. He looked down at Marco D'Angelo lying motionless on the floor. The rival he once called brother. The devil he just sent back to hell. For a long moment, he just stared, his breathing rough, uneven. Luca hoarse whisper, "It's over." But even as he said it, something deep inside told him it wasn't. By the time Luca staggered back to his car, the rain had stopped. A faint golden glow touched the horizon. But for him, dawn didn't feel like light. It felt like loss. He drove back to the villa in silence. No music, no words, just the steady, painful rhythm of his heartbeat and the memory of Marco's last words. Every sound made her jump. Every passing shadow outside looked like a threat. Her hands clutched the key Luca had given her, pressing it against her chest like a prayer. When she heard the front doors open, she ran, barefoot, trembling. Clara. Luca. He stepped inside, blood on his shirt, exhaustion in his eyes. The sight of him stopped her in her tracks. Clara gasping. "You're hurt." He brushed past her gently, his voice low. "Luca, it's nothing." "Clara." "Nothing? You're bleeding." He looked at her, really looked at her. There was something different in his gaze this time. Not just concern, not just pain, but doubt. "Luca, we need to talk." They went to his office, the same room where she'd once confessed everything, now heavy with new secrets. Luca sank into his chair, wincing. Clara rushed to his side with a first aid kit, her fingers trembling as she tried to clean his wound. He didn't stop her, but his silence cut deeper than any bullet. Finally, she couldn't take it. Clara whispering, "Please say something." "Did you? Did he?" Luca coldly, "He's dead." She froze. "Clara, then why do you look like that?" He hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Luca, because before he died, he told me you stole something from him." Clara's breath caught. Clara shaking her head. "That's a lie." Luca sharp. "Is it?" She flinched. The tone in his voice wasn't the man who had protected her. It was the boss, the one the world feared. "Luca, what did you take from him, Clara?" She looked down, her voice trembling. "Clara, something that doesn't belong to him anymore." "Luca, answer me." Tears welled in her eyes. "Clara, evidence." "Luca, evidence?" "Clara, of everything he's done. The trafficking, the bribery, the murders. I took the drive before I ran." Luca leaned back, stunned. "Luca, you've been hiding it here." She nodded weakly. "Clara, I didn't know where else to go. I thought maybe if I gave it to the police." Luca interrupting. "The police? Clara, do you have any idea what that means for me?" His voice thundered through the room. She flinched like a child under a storm. Clara crying. "I wasn't trying to hurt you." "Luca, then what were you trying to do?" Clara sobbing. "Survive." Her cry shattered the air between them. And for a second, just a second, Luca saw her for what she truly was. Not a threat, not a spy, just a broken soul, fighting to breathe in a world built by monsters like him. The anger in his chest melted, replaced by something else, something fragile. He sighed, his voice softer now. "Luca, where's the drive?" She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small flash drive, wrapped in cloth, worn from being hidden too long. He took it, turned it over in his palm, and stared at it. So small, yet powerful enough to destroy entire empires, including his own. Luca quietly. You kept this from me. Clara. I didn't trust anyone. Not after what he did. Luca. And now. Her eyes lifted to his. Clara. Now I do. He stared at her for a long moment, the trembling maid who had somehow crawled her way into his soul. He had spent his life surrounded by liars, killers, and traitors. And yet this woman, fragile and afraid, was the only one who'd ever told him the truth, even when it could cost her everything. He turned his chair toward the window, the morning light cutting across his face. Luca murmuring, if I give this to the police, they'll come for me too. Clara. I know. Luca. If I destroy it, his men will keep hunting you. Clara. I know that too. Luca. So what do we do? She took a breath, voice steady now. Clara. You decide. He stood, walking to the window. The gun at his side gleamed in the sunlight, a symbol of everything he was: power, control, blood. He looked down at the flash drive, then at her. Luca, you're giving me a choice between my empire and my soul. Clara softly. No, Luca. I'm giving you a chance to remember which one still matters. The room fell into silence. He looked at the gun in one hand, the drive in the other. Two paths. Two lives. Only one could survive. Minutes passed. Then Luca walked to the fireplace. Without a word, he tossed the flash drive into the flames. Clara gasped. Clara. No. That was the only proof. Luca firmly. That was the only thing tying you to him. Now it's gone. He turned to her, his voice calm, almost peaceful. Luca. You're free, Clara. He's dead. His secrets die with him. Her tears fell silently. Clara whispering, and what about you? He smiled faintly, though his eyes were tired. Luca. Men like me don't get freedom. We just buy others theirs. He stepped closer, his hand gently touching her cheek. Not possessive, not commanding. Just human. Luca. You asked me once why I helped you. It's because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it. I couldn't save her, but maybe saving you is enough. Her voice broke as she whispered, Clara, thank you. He smiled, the kind of smile that hides pain behind peace. Luca, now go pack your things. There's a car waiting to take you to Florence. You'll start a new life there. Clara, what about you? Luca, I'll handle what comes next. He watched until she was gone. The house felt emptier than ever, quiet, hollow. But for the first time in years his conscience wasn't. He turned toward the desk where a small piece of paper lay. A note from Clara, written in careful handwriting. You said men like you don't get freedom, but maybe you just never asked for it. He folded the note, placing it inside his jacket pocket. Then, a faint sound interrupted the silence. A knock at the door. He turned. Enzo entered, face grave. Enzo. Boss, there's something you need to see. He handed Luca a brown envelope, unmarked. Inside, photos. Surveillance photos. Of Clara. One taken that very morning. Another, just moments ago, at a gas station outside Florence. And standing behind her in the photo, a man, Marco D'Angelo. Luca's breath froze. His hands clenched the photos tight. Luca whispering, impossible. He looked out the window again, the same road where her car had disappeared. The sunlight flickered across his face, but this time, it wasn't warmth he felt. It was the cold return of rage. Luca low, dangerous. If he touched her again, he reached for his gun, sliding it into his coat. Luca, get the car, Enzo. We are not done. The camera pulls back, the car speeding down the road, dust rising behind it. The man once feared as a monster now chasing the last piece of his heart he ever cared for. Because sometimes even devils fall in love, and when they do, they burn the world to save it.